Hi budding biologists, in this clip we're going to be looking at the structures of plants. Plants are composed of two major organ areas. Okay, so we have the shoot system, which is everything above the ground, including the stems, the leaves, the buds, the flowers and the fruiting structures. And then you have the root system, everything that is below the ground. That includes things like roots or tubers. So when you think tubers, think things like potatoes or parsnips. There are three main types of cells found in plants. So we've got parenchyma, are responsible for photosynthesis, organism repair and storage of starch. So they're going to have high amounts of chloroplasts. Then we have parenchyma, cells that provide structural support. They tend to have a really strong cell wall, and they tend to be found in leaves and stems and fruits of plants. And then we have the sclerenchyma, which are the dead cells that are used to provide structural support in things like our xylem. In my diagram that I'm drawing here on the left, as we can see, we're going to recall that the root system allows for the uptake of water, mineral ions and oxygen from the soil to be transported up the plant to the leaves, where there's the location of photosynthesis, where we have that gas exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen, and the release of water and the use of light for that photosynthetic reaction. Alright, let's take a look at our first structure. We're going to be looking at the roots. So the roots is where we're taking up our water, our mineral ions and our oxygen. The roots are the structures of plants that provide that stability that deeply roots them into the soil. They're the main source of that nutrient collection. So the main structure that allows for that increased surface area is the root hairs, and they sit on the outside of the epidermis. Root hairs allow for an increased surface area to absorb large amounts of water and nutrients in soil through the process of diffusion and osmosis to allow for the delivery of those nutrients and water to the xylem and phloem of the stem of the plant. Xylem and phloem are located towards the center of the root, and as we can see in the diagram, the xylem have larger cells in the center, sort of a cross-like structure, whereas the phloem are in smaller cells surrounding the central complex. The root is divided into three main sections. So we have the root cap and the meristem, which are currently undergoing mitosis and dividing, which creates new cells allowing for the root to grow. Then we have the elongation zone, where new cells are added and begin to elongate, and the zone of maturation, where the cells, including xylem and phloem, are found, and they provide that basic structure for the root. This is also known as the differentiation zone. The root is also structured having an epidermis, which protects the root structure, particularly those internal structures of the xylem and the phloem. And there's a layer of cortex cells between the epidermis and the phloem and xylem. So to sum up, roots are the structures that provide stability and source of nutrient and water collection for the plant. Now stems. Stems provide the structural support to leaves, as well as being the component of the plant which delivers nutrient and water around the plant via the structure of vascular bundles. So vascular bundles are composed of two key structures. Xylem that transports water, and they're located towards the center of the stem that connects up to the roots. And then we have our phloem that's responsible for transporting sugars and nutrients around the plant, and they are located more towards the outer rim of the stem. We can see that the xylem and phloem are actually separated by the cambium. And we'll be looking at xylem and phloem in more detail when we talk about transport systems in one of my following clips. Stems are then coated with an epidermis, which acts as a protective layer, and this is accompanied by a woody layer to provide extra support and protection. The tissue surrounding the vascular bundles is known as ground tissue, and is made of those parenchyma cells that we talked about at the beginning of the clip. Towards the center of the stem is called the pith, and it is much softer, and between the vascular bundles of the epidermis is called the cortex, which travels up from the root system. Lastly, leaves. Leaves are the site of photosynthesis. This means that they're composed of cells responsible for the production of glucose and oxygen requirements of an organism. They have a high number of chloroplasts, and these organelles are responsible for producing glucose, which we talked about in Module 1 in some of my earlier clips. So go back and check them out if you're unclear on photosynthesis. On the outer layer of a leaf, there's an epidermis. This allows for the gas exchange in and out of the plant. It ranges in thickness depending on the plant type and its type of environment. And to regulate the exchange of gases, there's stomata embedded within the epidermis. These specialized structures are pores that open and close with the aid of guard cells. This allows for the appropriate amount of gas and water to be entering and leaving the leaf. On top of our epidermis, there's the cuticle, which is a waxy layer that protects against excessive water or gas exchange. There's 2 layers of mesophyll cells, the palisade mesophyll cells, which are tightly packed photosynthetic cells to produce high amounts of glucose, and then the spongy mesophyll, which is responsible for photosynthesis, but the cells are shaped more irregularly and loosely packed, which allows them to create more air space in the leaf to facilitate photosynthesis. It also allows for some aquatic plants to be buoyant. Leaves also contain vascular bundles, which connect up to the stem, which allow for the transport of nutrient or water around the plant. See you next time, budding biologists.